So welcome to today's episode. So I found this great clip on YouTube the other day where Johnny Ive, the former chief designer at Apple, who is responsible for some of the most iconic designs, he tells a short story about Steve Jobs' mentality around wanting to be liked and prioritizing great work. Take a look.
But I remember having a conversation with him and was asking why it could have been perceived that in his critique of piece of work, he was a little harsh. And I was saying, couldn't we be a little bit more, could we not moderate the things we said a little bit? And he said, well, why? And I said, well, because I care about the team and, I care about, and he said this brutally, brilliantly insightful thing, which he said was, no, Johnny, you're just really vain. Oh. And he said, no, you just want people to like you. And I'm surprised at you because I thought you really held the work up as the most important, not how you believed that you were perceived by other people. And I was terribly cross because I knew he was right.
What Jobs was telling Johnny Ive here was that he was putting being liked and being a good manager over the thing which mattered the most to Steve Jobs, and that was the product. And this was not a good thing for Steve Jobs. Now, you may have seen the 2 Hollywood films made about Jobs after his death, one starring Ashton Kutcher, the other one with Michael Fassbender. Personally, I think the second one was better. And also the autobiography, which came out shortly after his passing. But a common theme that many people talked about was how incredibly difficult he was to work with. Brilliant, but difficult. But no one denies he was incredibly effective. And one of the reasons why was his priorities. The design and intuitive usability of the Apple products ruled over everything else. And as you hear in this story, Steve Jobs wasn't really concerned about being liked. He just wanted to put out incredible work. Now, there's a spectrum that we're all located on between 2 different extremes. Now, on the one end is a person who doesn't care about others' feelings, offending people, and getting into conflict. Now, I'm not talking about narcissistic people who actively want to engage in conflict. I'm just talking about those who are extremely candid in their approach. Now, on the other end, you've got extreme people pleasers who will do anything to avoid confrontation, and they'll always try and make everyone happy. Now, my question to you is, where do you think you would fall on that spectrum? Would you be on the far side where you are extremely candid, you don't really care too much about offending people, or do you like to please other people? Do you find yourself compromising on things so that others can feel more included, happier, and just to try and avoid disagreements? Or do you want to do things your way? The right way, and if someone's not up to standard or doing their part, you're going to have no issues telling them, even if you inadvertently offend them. So where would you be on that spectrum? Now, let me be clear on this. I'm not saying that one side is better than the other. There's certain jobs in this world where you do need to be more of one than the other. So for example, at this hotel that I'm at right now, when things start to open back up and as tourism begins to come back, I'm going to hire someone to do check-ins, to do restaurant service, and attend to any other guest needs. Now, that person needs to be an extreme people pleaser. They must really care what others think of them and their work, and they must get pleasure from keeping the guest as happy as possible. Jobs in hospitality usually require a high degree of drive to please others, and if someone doesn't have that drive, then they're probably in the wrong field. Now, on the other hand, if I'm hiring a full-time accountant or someone in charge of the money, then I want someone who's on the opposite end. I want someone who puts reporting accurate numbers first and monitoring spending over anyone's feelings or needs. I want someone who won't have any issue with telling others no or calling them out if the cash register count at the end of the day is a few dollars short. Now, for myself, I would be somewhere in the middle, but a little bit over to the right side. In other words, I want to please other people. I don't like to let other people down. and I care about those kind of things. And this has served me well in a lot of different areas. So for example, when I'm writing an email to you, if you're on my list, which you can join at mattlloyd.org, but if I'm trying to write an email to you, I really put in effort to make it good because I care what you think. If I'm making one of these videos, I try and do a good job. Sometimes I put out duds, but I try to do a good job because I want you to be happy with the content. Now, being a people pleaser can be good if you're in a job where you're creating content or you're creating something that others are going to give their attention to and they're going to make a judgment on. But in other areas, being a people pleaser can be a bad thing. Now, there's been times over this past decade where I've worked with individuals who created problems. Most of the people I worked with were great, but I had a few that created problems, and I could see that early on, and so could everyone else. But because I am somewhat of a people pleaser, I want to keep everyone happy and I want to avoid conflict unless it's absolutely necessary. So if I could go back in time, I would have got rid of them fast, and I would have just been a lot more candid and decisive with dealing with people who were creating problems. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're a manager inside a company and you're overseeing people, you're going to have people like this. They might be top performers, they might be producing a lot, but they could also be creating problems. And you've got to use your judgment and just make sure that if you do keep them on board, it's for the right reasons and not just because you want to avoid a difficult conversation or some conflict. If you want to create something great and you're in charge of making that happen, for example, you're the manager, then you've got to prioritize that goal over being politically correct, being liked, and avoiding conflict. Now, speaking of creating something great, if you are dead serious about turning your dreams into a reality in a short time frame, then you need to enroll in my Strive 10-Day Challenge. It is 100% free. There's a link below this video, or you can go to changeyourlifein10days.com. But when you enroll in this program, we're going to walk you through the 10 days. There's 10 days worth of content. It's all about you picking a few goals in your life that are really important to you and then choosing some daily action steps which are going to make those goals begin to become a reality in 10 days. And then you commit to doing them for 10 days. And everyone else in the challenge, they're going to help keep you accountable. You're going to have someone working with you daily. They're going to be calling you. They're going to be helping to keep you accountable and on track. But if you want to know more, go to changeyourlifein10days.com. So guys, that's it from me today. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, I appreciate you watching this content. Speak soon.